My guest is Stan Moore. Stan Moore is chair of the Save the Gundary Plains Action Group. With the noted barrister Louise Clegg, he wrote a piece, I think a superb piece, in the Australian on 5 July. It was headlined, "Wind Farm Fraud, a sign of trust deficit in the renewables industry." Welcome, Stan.
Hi, good afternoon, David.
Good. Now, Stan, what is the problem that you're fighting against in these lovely plains?
Look, there are a number of issues, and apart from the lack of what we'd call genuine consultation, there are massive issues around the issue of remediation of these projects should they go ahead, and who is responsible for the remediation and rehabilitation should they be developed. The other thing is in relation to property values. There's denial that it has an impact on neighbouring properties, and there seems to be, in our mind, a wealth transfer from neighbours to the operators, and if you follow the money, it'll probably end up going offshore.
Now, the company you're dealing with originally was Lightsource BP. Who are they?
Well, Lightsource BP is a company that is based in the UK. It's basically a finance company. In Australia, they have Lightsource BP Australia, which manages the finance, but also it has a subsidiary organisation called Lightsource Development Australia. And it's the one that lodges all the paperwork and organises the building of these things should they go ahead. Lightsource, the head company, is owned by British Petroleum, BP.
And they're proposing to build an enormous field of plain of wind farms, are they not?
Well, BP are into the solar side of it, and our article was dealing with the issue that we've seen on the southern tablelands around the construction of wind turbines. And we've got some information about, who's responsible for cleaning up the mess at the end of life, etc. But we've also got the issue of the development of solar factories, industrial solar, of a significant scale. And one of my interests is also, and it's a personal issue, is that I have a property. It's a property that my wife and I purchased about 15 years ago. And part of the aspect is we bought in close to Goulburn, which is close to a regional centre. And it's only a small property, a bit over 200 odd acres. And it's basically a lifestyle property. There are 106 homes around this particular development, and the size of the development is some 740,000 solar panels on 7 square kilometres is the area of this solar installation, and it is likely to produce maximum 400 megawatts DC, so that's direct current through the panels. And then, of course, to get it to AC, you end up with only about 320, and further, that's maximum. The other thing is they've picked Goulburn, and for solar, you're looking at, if you want to generate electricity, you're looking at what is the irradiance coming in, and Goulburn only has 88.4 days a year where we get cloudless days, where we get full sunshine all day. So if you were developing something to produce solar generated electricity, we question whether you should be picking such a site. And the whole reason why BP picked this site is because there is a major 330 kV transmission line running through the property. So it's basically grid-led. But back on the issue around wind farms, we're getting to the stage where these turbine installations, some of them, like Crookwell 1, is getting near the end of its life. And so what's going to happen with it? Nobody knows who's responsible for cleaning up the mess.
You make the point, don't you, that most industries, for example, the mining industry, is required to establish a system whereby remediation at the end of the life of the mine is undertaken. And that's not just a promise. Money has to be deposited, does it not, to ensure that there is proper remediation or repair so that you go back to the land as it originally was and you get rid of these enormous machines. Nobody knows where to put them, do they, when they're finished?
Well, there's really no home if we talk around the wind turbines. Over the life, the supposed life of these things, whether it be 20 or 30 or even 40 years, as they're claiming in relation to solar, they will have a number of new wind turbine blades because they wear out. At the moment, all they do with the old ones is they dig a hole and they bury them. Or if you have a look at what they're doing in the US, they chop them up and put them in a graveyard. And that's how you deal with that element of it. One thing they have not mentioned is in relation to wind towers, that massive base of concrete and steel that's drilled into or dug into the hills. I suspect they are looking at just taking the tower down and covering that with dirt. So is that acceptable? The other thing is, who is actually responsible? Now, we've got some information based on some recent property sales that the property value has been reduced significantly to cover the future cost of any remediation. And who's going to pay for that? Because if you have a look at the cost of remediation, it is greater than the income those hosts have been receiving each year. And so our view is that the property owner won't be able to afford to do it. And at the end of the day, it'll be the taxpayer that picks it up. And you're correct. The renewables industry seems to be getting a rails run in relation to what any other industry, such as the mining and any extractive industries and resource industries, gas or whatever, they have to lodge, for instance, in New South Wales, a security bond with the New South Wales government or a guarantee of some sort in order to meet the obligations for remediation. And the remediation obligations, based on the numbers we've looked at, will be more than the value of the land. And so it's not, a company is unlikely to want to remediate. It'll walk away and it'll be left to the taxpayers. And one thing too, I didn't mention in the article, but if these companies, these developers, were serious about looking after the environment, they would insist on remediating. And also, and I suspect the regulators should be looking at this, if they are serious, there should be a provision in their annual accounts for the liability. Now, I can't look at that, but maybe the regulators could, to see what the commitment is in relation to remediation, or the other alternative is to treat them similarly to, say, mining and other industries and require that security deposit, a bond, to be lodged upon approval or prior to approval.
But they seem to be getting special treatment, not only in relation to remediation, but in relation to environmental approvals. Are we talking about a large amount of prime agricultural land as well in this area?
Well, in relation to the wind towers, it's significant when you add it all up, and whether it be what they determine prime, which is a particular determination, or productive agricultural land. Now, on the southern tablelands, there are patches of what you'd term prime, but all of it is productive agricultural land. You can grow crops, you can graze cattle and sheep, etc., and grow wool. The turbines cover a stretch along the top of the Great Dividing Range behind Goulburn to the west of Goulburn. It runs for about 200 kilometres, and they're at the moment around 12 solar turbine installations along there. Coming back to solar, what we're seeing with the one that BP is proposing beside us, it is 7 square kilometres dropped in the middle of a plain, surrounded by 106 homes, and the scale of it is just enormous compared to its neighbours. And
yes,
apart from the property,
you're absolutely right. I understand that that is something like the distance between the harbour bridge, the top of the harbour bridge, and the sea and the harbour. These are enormous structures. A colleague of mine in this on this platform, Nick Cater, who also writes for The Australian, in fact he was the editor of the Weekend Australian, he found a farm in, I think, northern New South Wales, where the turbines were just on their side. They didn't know what to do with them. They were lying on their side. They were used turbines. He was dwarfed by just the diameter of these machines, and that nobody knew what to do with them. They were just lying there. Obviously, no provision has been made for getting rid of them and doing whatever you have to do to dispose of these monstrosities.
Oh, look, absolutely. And I'm not sure where Nick came across those, but they're the old blades, and they are relatively small compared to the current blades. Mm. The current blades are over 85 metres long. They are basically resin fiberglass, which at the moment cannot be recycled. They also, if you did anything, cut them or do that, you've got the issues around the toxicity and the dangerous nature of dealing with fiberglass as well. And I know here locally that the damaged blades, they get the earth moving contractors to come out, they dig a hole, put it in and cover it up.
And you've had, you mentioned in the article that some of the business people in the area, because of bad experiences they've had with organisations associated with this venture, not being paid and the like, that they've decided not to have any dealings with them. Is that not the case?
Well, they'll only deal with them on a cash basis. Mm. The experience with some, particularly in the wind turbine area, is that, I think the Australian Energy Infrastructure Commission identified it correctly. We have a number of cowboys in this area, and these cowboys are, on companies like, they've got very little capital backing. They're based on sort of pushing money around, and they had left a number of suppliers, whether they be earth moving contractors, fuel suppliers, some other local businesses. And we've got evidence around here that they have racked up the bill and then have not paid it. And so a number of businesses, they're small businesses, have said, no, we're not dealing with you, and the only way we'll deal with you is purely on a cash basis.
You say that this involves a cumulative transfer of wealth to others, to the Sydney-based investor bankers and property developers who will host the solar faculty.
Oh, look, I think if you follow the money here, and I'll just, personalise it a little bit, in relation to our property, we have almost 4 kilometres of common boundary with this proposed solar installation. We have had it valued, and we will lose of the order of over $600,000 in property value. Our host neighbour is likely to benefit because he'll get paid for allowing solar panels to be put on there. I'm sure BP and Lightsource BP will make a profit out of doing this. Some of that is guaranteed by government subsidy. And the other thing in relation to BP, they have already sold 5 of their developed solar installations, and they came to a deal in December last year where they were asset recycling and sold 5 of them to Beijing Energy. So if you follow the money, they're clipping the ticket from the host to the developer and now to the owner. So we're obviously, some of it we feel, I do, some of my money is going up the line and going to end in China.
And when would you be prepared to accept that there's a genuine wish on the part of these people to save the planet? When would you accept that they are really in this because they want to save the planet?
Well, I think you've got to be somebody who, our dealings with these people have been difficult at times because they either deny, they deceive, and they lie to us. And what we'd like to see is not only their behaviour adjusted, but suitably compensate, if it goes ahead, their nearby neighbours because of the impact. You know, that's a significant impact on us personally. And to me, they should be upfront in relation to mediation and be either offering the guarantee or giving some form of guarantee, because it's hard to trace because these developments change hands regularly. I know there is one of the wind tower operations is on its 4th owner, and it's only about 5 years old. So there's got to be accountability on the part of these developers and operators. That's what we need. If they care for the environment, they should have a commitment there to fix it all up at the end of it.
Well, Stan, we would wish you well with your Save the Gundary Plains Action Group. You're obviously involved in something very important and something which governments should be taking notice of, because you're pointing to all of the unintended consequences of this massive move to renewables only electricity generation, and you are suffering terribly, as far as I can see, in relation to this. So we will keep in touch and hope that the politicians do take notice. Thank you very much, Stan.
Thank you, David, for the opportunity to talk to you.